Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Today I thought I'd do something sort of like a little mountain scene with the sun. It's going to be kind of stylized and simple. It should be a good beginner project. I picked out a spiny oyster stone that's kind of triangular for the mountain, and a little round 6mm faceted kind of orangey citrine to be the sun. So it shouldn't be too hard of a project, and it should be a good one for practicing your skills on if you're a beginner. Let's have some fun doing that. Before we get started, I wanted to thank some groups of people. My patrons over on Patreon are my core group of supporters. I couldn't do this without them, and I really do appreciate their support. It's a nice group of people with a whole bunch of skill, and I think it's nice that we can tap into each other's knowledge base, and it's a good learning environment. So thanks for that. Thanks for creating that kind of a place. My YouTube subscribers are my other group, and we just passed 25,700, which is amazing. Thank you for that. I love the nice comments I get from you guys, and I really appreciate your input on things, and when you offer advice or tell me how you do things, that stuff really adds to the value of my channel, and I appreciate it. So thanks for that. Thank you also for the kind contributions like the Buy Me a Coffees, the super thanks, the merch purchases, and my ebooks. That's what keeps my channel sustainable, and I really appreciate that. So thanks for that. Let's get started on this project. This is one of my sketchbooks that are available on my merch store. This particular one has information about solder flow temperatures of various types. The feature I like most about these books, though, is that it has this nice dot matrix in the background that helps me to draw better pictures. And I've gone through about 4 or 5 of them now, I think. And I find them invaluable in keeping track of my projects that I make. There's some other models over there on the merch store, too, that have different information on the back, like a chart for converting from gauge to inches to millimeters and things like that. So check those out. Get yourself a couple. I think they're a super useful way to keep track of your past projects. So this is what I drew up today. Nothing very fancy, but kind of a simple little kind of stylized scene. I thought I'll make a little mountain out of this triangle stone. It's got some kind of interesting patterns. It's a spiny oyster. And then I picked out, if we're going to have a mountain, let's have a little sun in the skyline. So I picked out a little faceted 6mm citrine, and we'll set that there. So the first thing we're going to be doing is making a bezel for each of those. After that, all we have to do is make a circle here, and I was thinking about kind of flattening it, gradually getting wider and then coming back to narrow, so it's not a perfectly symmetrical circle. I'm going to do that and see if I like it, and if not, we'll go back and just do the regular circle, but it's an option either way, I think. So for materials, that's going to be 14 gauge square wire, which is 1.6mm. The bezel I'm going to use is 3/16 inch fine silver bezel strip in 26 gauge. That's 4.76mm by 0.41 for the 26 gauge. The back of the bezel here is going to be 26 gauge sterling sheet. That's also 0.41. And then I'm going to use some 18 gauge round wire to create a little step on the inside of this for the citrine to sit on. And that's 1mm round wire. I'll make a little rectangular sandwich bail here so that this loop can slide and settle in the best way it should. And it'll slide on the chain through the top of it. I haven't decided whether I'm going to put a divider in the middle. I might. But we'll see how it turns out. I think it'll be pretty. Did I forget anything? I'll probably use 22 gauge sheet for the bail on front and back with some spacers in between, maybe some flattened out 14 gauge on its edge or something like that. We'll see, but let's make a couple of bezels first. Okay, if you're new to my channel, there's my setup. I use that kind of a torch and those kind of that kind of solder and that kind of flux. But we're going to start by making bezels for these two. So here's that 26 gauge 3/16 fine silver bezel. We'll start by filing the end. I keep drifting out of frame lately. I'm trying to be better about that tonight here. So when you're doing something that has corners, you never want to put the end of the bezel on one of the corners. That always makes it harder. So we're just going to pick a side here and we'll do one bend and then we'll go from there. spiny oyster shell is, it's usually either purple or orange like this. Most of the stuff I've seen is orange, but I have a little bit that's got some purple in it too. I'm going to make a mark just a little bit beyond where they meet. We'll go ahead and cut this one. We got that one ready. I'm going to go ahead and make the other one while we're at it. Might as well. We'll be filing this down some. I usually buy a pretty tall bezel just because it's handy for most things, and you can make it shorter if you want to. With faceted stones like this, you want to make sure they're relatively snug. You don't want to have a lot of excess space on those. With a faceted stone, you have to account for the pavilion, which is the pointy part on the bottom like this, because that won't sit nicely in a closed back bezel, and it also won't let much light to the back, which helps the stone to really sparkle if you get some light from the back as well. And so we're going to do an open back with a little lip on the inside. The other one we'll just put a back on a 26 gauge sheet. Alright, why don't we solder those two? You want these pushing together pretty snugly so they don't relax under the heat and then open up a gap. That's always embarrassing. Not really, it happens to everybody sometimes. I remembered to use a lint roller on my shirt today to get rid of all the animal hair from our pets. I forgot on the last video. I wonder if there's a filter on the computer where I can just edit out my animal hair problem. Or I could just remember to do that. Let's go ahead and round out the other one too while we're at it. I'm going to put a mark on the bottom of this so that I know, so I don't solder it to the sheet upside down, which I have been known to do in the past. When you have an asymmetric stone, it matters. If it's round or something, it doesn't matter so much. That's why you get lucky, and on the bail making pliers, it's just the right size. Let's see how it lines up on the stone. See if we got close or not. We got a little bit too much play. I'm going to cut a piece out and resolder it. Better safe than sorry, right? We probably could have made that work, but nobody likes to have to deal with extra bezel because it's wrinkly, and you know, nobody likes when they get wrinkles. Alright, let's see how it looks. That will work, that's pretty close. Okay, so let's put a bottom on this one. It's a 26 gauge sheet. And then we'll put a little lip on the inside of the other one, some 18 gauge round. Let's run a file over there just to make sure it's nice and flat. Okay, so I probably have enough solder here, so I'm just going to flux it and put that in there. And up against the sides. Just has to be touching, doesn't have to lean or anything. Although it can if you want it to. Be one of those leaner sorts. Or if you're using wire solder, you can roll it up against the side on that side. I like the sheet because it stays in place better. There. So the reason a lot of people melt their bezels when they're beginners is because you're trying to get both the sheet and the bezel to reach the soldering flow temperature at the same time. In the case of hard silver sheet solder, it's 1450 Fahrenheit or so. And the bezel up here being sitting on top like that is exposed to the flame much more readily than that piece of sheet that's laying there kind of protected by the bezel. So we got to kind of focus the heat mostly on the sheet because the bezel will get up to that temperature just by being around the flame. And we want them both to reach temperature at about the same time. So you notice I'm hitting some of that surface area on the middle, but kind of trying to jump around and avoid the bezel itself. But get the heat applied to that sheet. When it starts to flow, then you can kind of focus right on the top of the bezel and kind of go around in a circle until it pulls it around. Make sure we get a seam all the way around. We don't want any gaps. No unsightly gaps. Trim off the excess here. You don't want to bevel underneath this because you'll cut right into the solder joint if you're not careful. Just go straight up and down. If you prefer to saw, you can saw. Stuff like this with just outside curves I don't usually bother. Unless it's really thick or something. And we'll just file it flush. One thing you want to avoid here when you're filing the bottom flush with the side of the bezel. It's okay to file into the bottom a little bit. You don't want to hit the top much, because that'll get super thin and fragile. Super thin and supercalifragilistic. Okay, that one's pretty much flush all the way around. All right, set him to the side for the moment. And let's find some 18 gauge round wire. There's a piece. I might need a second piece if I need to make a second loop. Sometimes you need to make two loops, one on top of the other, in order to raise up the stone enough so that the point of the pavilion doesn't stick out the back and feel pokey. Pokey, pokey. I have a video that I did recently that's a pretty good coverage of how to do a step bezel. So if you're interested in that, I'll put a link up there for you. I was a little intimidated when I first started trying to conceive of using faceted stones in my jewelry. But after you make a few, it's not really too hard. I usually try to cut these rings a little bit extra long and then snip out pieces until they fit in there perfectly. See how close I am on my game tonight. You see it almost goes in there, but it's riding up on this side, so I need to snip just a little piece out, which is good because I want it to be snug in there and not have a gap. That's that's about right, so it's pretty snug in there. Let's put that stone in and see how it looks. I'm going to put one more in there because it's probably going to need it. So I'll make one more, then find another piece of 18. First off, make sure they're nice and flat so you don't have any wobbles, because we want a nice flat platform for a stone to sit on. Make sure they're sitting down flat. And then, let's see if I have enough solder here. I probably do. The easiest way I found to solder these is just to set them on top of a few pieces of solder. And once it gets hot enough, the solder will flow up into it. Get this all nice and fluxed. Heat it just like you would a normal bezel on the outside. Usually on the bottom of these I file these flat. See, if you file far enough, you get a nice, clean, circular-looking hole. I like the way that ends up looking. We will be filing this much shorter, but that's nice and snug in there, so that should fit in there well. We'll take it shorter so it just barely goes over the girdle of the stone when we go to set it. That looks good. So, let's make that circle. There's a piece of square. I don't know if this is long enough. Some more later and some more here. Let's just see. Maybe it is. I gotta remember though, it's gonna get a little bit longer if I pound it flat. So I'm gonna make it just a tiny bit smaller. I do something called pick soldering, where I pick up a bit of solder and touch it right where it needs to go. It's a really handy skill. If you haven't tried it yet, there's a video right there about it. I think it's like a serious skill-changing kind of technique, if that makes any sense. If you can do that, you can put solder in a lot of places you couldn't put it before. And it speeds up your process a lot of times. I even have a couple of videos for practicing pick soldering if you look through my playlists, or just scroll back through my videos. I have a chronological list on the main page if you want to just work your way backwards. I'm just going to round this out a little bit. Right where the solder joint is, let's use my chasing hammer. Let's kind of designate how far we want it to be. So we got this here. Solder joint's right there. With the solder joint right in the middle there. Let's just kind of use that as the starting point and taper it a bit. This triangle isn't perfectly symmetrical. One side of it goes off further than the other side. The other side seems a little bit longer. So I think that looks actually pretty good, but I need to think about this for a minute. I'm going to take a little break and think about it. Be right back. So I did a little bit of thinking, and I kind of drew where I wanted this to intersect and where I wanted it to point. So I think I'm going to solder that together first, and then we'll add this on. So I put the widened part mostly at the bottom. I was trying to decide whether I wanted it off to the side to balance out the sun, but I'm not sure if that's what that would do or not. I'm going to go about right there. That's a little bit off to that, but it looks straighter to me. Until I get it soldered together, then it won't look straighter to me anymore. I think this will be just kind of a silly little sort of cute pendant. I hope it is anyway. I'm not sure why when you're putting things together like this, it makes it more interesting to me when you're splitting the border that you have in it. Like this circle is sort of like a border around it. And you could make one that's completely inside of a circle like this. But when you intersect the circle with some shapes and stuff, it just makes it more interesting to me. So I'm sure there's some artistic rule that talks about that, but I don't really have that training, but it just looks interesting, more interesting to me. I'm going to decide where to put this. Well, I thought it's pretty much about there. Okay, well, let's let that pickle for a while, and then we'll, in the meantime, we can start making that veil. That's probably good enough. Let's do this. We'll likely have, it's a little tall. Looking for some, I do a lot of flattening of square wire, so I usually have some pieces laying around that are left over. See if I can find a piece of flattened square. I think to get all three of these on here, the easiest way might be to do a little trick. Okay, so I think maybe the best way to do this is let's just sweat some solder on there, and then we'll just perch this on there where we want it. Then we'll add the third one in the middle in a minute. This is called sweat soldering, when you're pre-attaching some solder where you want it to be. Put a little in the middle too. We're going to be putting that other one in there as well. Got a nice coating on there. Yeah, remember I said I was just going to do 2 of them? That's because I want to be able to open the 3rd one and put it over the pendant itself. So I'm going to pre-melt a little solder on the middle one and the end one. And then we should be able to just flip this over. Flipping it over is hard as well. Really? Yeah. There we go. And honestly, I think I'm going to use my saw to solder on this. So that'll make it easiest to get it just the same shape and everything. Welcome to my very exciting saw area. So, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to round this all just slightly so it's not so angular. The chain will go through here, and this part down here will be where the little ring goes through. And then we'll just solder this up with some easy solder. So now really, let me find the easy solder. And we'll take the easy way out. That was like a dad joke. Next thing you know, I'll be shaking my cane at kids on the lawn. Okay, so let's just heat the veil up here. So I need to do that this time. Okay, well, I'm going to let that pickle for a while. I will get those bezels trimmed down to the height that I want them to be for the stones, and then we'll set those stones after it's polished. I went ahead and set the coral, or the spiny oyster, I should say, just because it's a standard bezel pretty much. So for the sake of time, if you want to see me setting a bezel set stone in almost every other video I've ever done. So let's put this in here and see if we're at about the right level. I filed it down and I think we're close. So I do this a little differently than some. I use the flat side of my chain nose pliers as a bezel pusher. So we'll kind of do a little bit of dimpling here to make sure everything's sitting straight first. Okay, once you have it kind of staying in place, then we can use this rounded outer part to burnish that top edge, which kind of cleans it up and pushes it in tight. Alright, so get a chain and put that on there, get that all shined up, but I think that's going to be cute. Kind of what I had in mind. Just like that. So I'll get some better pictures and put them at the end. Tell me what you think, tell me what you would have done differently, or if you have any tricks that you'd like to share. I know a lot of my viewers like to read the comments too and see some of the cool information that you guys provide as well. That being an advanced amateur as I am, I'm not formally trained in jewelry. I always appreciate getting information from experts. So that's really nice when someone leaves some expert information that I was unaware of. So I appreciate that, and I'm sure my watchers do as well. All right, well, I'll get some pictures. All right, well, that was a little simple mountain scene. I hope you enjoyed that one. If you did, make sure to hit the like button before you go, and I'd love it if you'd hit my main channel page as well and check out some of the other content I have. I have over 660 videos now, so there's a lot of stuff over there. There's all different projects from beginner to advanced, and lots of different videos about particular skills. So there's almost certainly something you can use over there or find interesting to watch. So check it out, watch a few, and I'd love it if you'd subscribe to my channel. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps out the channel a great deal. So, so thanks for that in advance. The other thing is, check out the video description down below. There's information about this video, but there's also some links there that are important. There's a link to my merch store should you want to get yourself one of those nice design idea sketchbooks or some other merch. There's quite a few cool things there. There's a link to my Patreon if you want to find out more about that particular community over there. It's a nice place with a lot of cool people who know a lot of stuff and like to share their ideas and what they're working on and stuff. So it's got multiple tiers over there too. There's lowest tier is just getting rid of the YouTube ads, and the other tiers have additional things like live streams and Patreon exclusive videos. So I think you'll find that it's a nice place over there with a lot of cool stuff. So pick whichever tier suits you and come on over and check it out. Finally, there's a link to my ebooks. We're working on 2025s. Hopefully we'll have it done right after the first of the year and available for download. That covers all of the videos that I did during 2025. Each page in the ebook is dedicated to a particular video tutorial that I did during this past year. There's a picture of the sketch that I drew. There's a picture of the final outcome. There's a list of materials you need to make it. There's a difficulty rating. It's got some additional notes about the project, like mistakes I might have made or things I would do different, or what did I learn from the project, because most times I learn something new every time I do something. So I hope to be able to share that kind of stuff with you through the ebook as well. So There's one for 2023 and 2024 as well, so check all of those out. Get yourself a couple, and I think you'll be happy because it's a whole lot of projects right at your fingertips, and it's a nice way to support my channel, so thanks in advance for that. Alright, well, thanks for watching today. Take care. Happy silversmithing.